In the first two parts of this interview between Oliver Evans and Anaïs Nin, Nin explained how House of Incest was written and discussed the second and third movements of the 7 that comprise the book. In part 3, she talks about movements 4, 5, and 6. As before, I used the 1989 Swallow edition of the book for reference.
This next movement begins the description of the Isolina. By the way, has her name changed in the later?
Yes,
it is changed.
yes, because you see, I became aware that she was taken from Under Glass Spell. Woman.
Oh yes, and that's
and so I made the tie again, and I called her Jeanne in.
Yeah. Well,
I think I better give you the new book.
I have it, but I'm using this one because I made my first notes in it.
Because
so
it also helps you to tie with the other characters.
Yes. Now this begins another type. Am I mistaken in thinking that the whole book is the pattern of the whole book, or was that an oversimplification or an exaggeration when you said in the diary that your purpose in this, your total purpose, was to represent various types of psychological torment, distress?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That's
yes.
right.
Yes. Yes.
So this then would be
less
another
of a simplification, and to say it represents all the forms of anxieties, all the dramatizations of different kinds of anxieties. I think that's more exact. You're the one who said that. Forms of torment. Did I say that?
Well, yes, in the diary.
Yes.
Because you were comparing it to Mirbeau's book.
Yes, to physical torture. Well, these are the tortures of neurosis.
Yes, you were comparing your intention in this with his in that.
Yes.
Now, this movement then is concerned with the torture Isolina and her brother, their situation. Now, does this have is it implied that this has a realistic level or not?
Yes, it has both. Except what is not realistic is that these relationships don't come to the surface. No, they're not realistic in that sense.
In other words, they do not sleep together.
That's right. It's not a real case of incest. It's a case of emotional incest. And I'm sticking to the idea of Freud that first there is the 2 women, and again then there's a brother and sister, which are the...
this is interesting.
You see,
first there are the 2 women.
The 2 women, which is, I say, the first love is narcissistic.
Is narcissistic.
Yes. Or incestuous, or in the family. So I have the 2 women, then I have the brother and sister, then I have the paralytic, then the Christ who doesn't love humanly at all. And there are various forms of love in which each one attempts to find salvation.
Are they stages of love, or are they simply...
No,
is there a logic to the arrangement?
No, there isn't, except... No, there isn't really, except that I think I covered all the early loves. We think of because I consider part of adolescence, the love, narcissistic love, as part of adolescence. Brother and sister as part of adolescence. It isn't usually carried into mature life. So in a way, they are the early stages of love, all of them.
Yes.
The book has that seed. That's why I always call it the seed of the novels, because here all the characters are young and they are almost in a state of pre-love.
Yes, I see. But I was wondering if within that group there was a reason for putting, say, the case of Sabina first and the case of Isolina second and so forth.
I could have put the brother and sister first.
Yes, that's an arbitrary arrangement, more or less.
Yes. Except, I know what the arrangement is caused by, that the eye of the book runs through all the relationships, is related to all the relationships. The eye of the book speaks to Jeanne, is present in the relationship of Jeanne and her brothers. The eye is the seeing eye. Yeah.
Oh, you mean E-Y-E, not I.
No, I mean the I.
Oh, the E-Y-E. No. I thought you meant the narrator.
No, the narrator. I do mean
who is also the E-Y-E, yes.
This is why the order doesn't matter. The narrator is there in the first part, plays the role of relating to a woman.
Yes.
And then in the second is part of the brother and sister relationship. She's present and witnessing it, but she's not...
Is she involved in that?
Well, she is. She talks with Jeanne. They talk to each other. Jeanne confesses to her, to the narrator.
Yes.
Let's say the narrator, so it won't be so confusing.
Yes, the narrator. Yes, I had here the question... Knowing only fear, it is true, such a fear that it chokes me that I stand... I was wondering here if it was Isolina, is this I...
No, Jean
Oh,
is
the
speaking
narrator.
there.
This is...
Jean Isolina is speaking
yes.
there.
This is...
And the
yes.
narrator speaks to her and says, but... Jean,
yes, the narrator is speaking here, right?
Yes, will drive us out of the presence
Yes, I suspected that, because you see, that's why I asked this question here. And this is the response, the answer which Jean makes to the narrator, beginning here, is that right? Knowing...
Yes, you want to put the initial here? Do you want me to mark it?
No, I'll just do it here.
Yes.
This
Jean
is
Isolina,
whatever. This is Jean continuing. Yes, this is right up to here.
Yes.
Right up to here is.
In a way, it should have been made clear in the.
Well, because of the I is ambiguous in this paragraph, but I see now because I wondered. You see,
when Jean speaks, there should have been
quotations. Yes, or parentheses, I guess, or something like that.
See, here I describe her, but here she speaks. That should have been marked. And then the narrator speaks, and then Jean resumes. But she goes on.
Yes,
when
this
I sit
continues.
before my
Yes.
mirror. That is confusing.
And this is down. Oh yes, because what made me wonder was because in the diary you have her, so you quote her as saying this.
Yes, but
that's
the same.
And then I wondered, well, this cannot be the narrator speaking because that's unless she has transposed the identities. Yeah. Oh, I see. Ah, yes. Well, that's very clear now. This
yes,
movement
that's not
is
very good typography. That's.
Yeah. Now the next movement.
Now she leads the narrator into the house of incest.
Now this is there any dream involved in this chapter, or is this simply a symbolic, a fanciful description of?
It's symbolic, but like all the symbolist things I've used, they had their basis on some reality. I saw a house like that once.
Well, is it like the house at Louvre? Because what made me wonder was the windows, little spying-eyed windows.
No, I saw those in Switzerland in a Romanian woman's house.
Oh.
She had little windows between the rooms so they could speak to each other.
Yeah.
No, it's a symbolism born of things I see, which remained in my mind. I really saw that. Every room had a little spy window that could be opened.
And in this book, it stands as a symbol of the isolation, the suffering
but at the same time, the communication in the family, within the family. You see, the brothers and sisters speak to each other through these little apertures.
Yeah.
But it's not an image typical of a house in the world, where the rooms are separate. There is the blood tie.
Yes.
So it's the incestuous house in that sense. Within the family, so that the house becomes again, it houses the family, and then there is a room which can't be found, which is a room of guilt, really, of taboo, of the taboo in this case.
Ah, yes.
The room becomes
that's why it's fortress of their love. Yes. Them against the world.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes. At the same time, hidden and
yes.
Not,
yeah.
You see, not exposed.
Not obvious. Yes.
And
taboo. Now. This description of the paintings.
It shows the unreality of the relationship, without all rootless like those pictures. Promiscuity of glances.
Yeah, the sterility, that is to say, is that right?
Yes, because
of the relationship.
It's not lived out.
It's not consummated. Now, the significance of these pictures, these are all appropriate to the theme of incest. They're not Lot and his daughter.
The things that you cannot look upon the face of. I looked upon a clock to find the time. You see, and they don't see, and they will not look at anything in a realistic way to avoid this particular relationship. Everything becomes faceless. The room is hidden.
They are, in other words, they're reluctant.
They're not confronting that.
They're reluctant, to face the truth of the relationship.
Yes, he loves her in the painting. He kisses the painting, or she kisses his shadow.
His shadow, I see. Yes. Oh, yes. So it's also a frustration, a situation of frustration, isn't that so?
Yes.
Now, this part here, what do I have that marked?
This to me was symbolical. You see this.
These images which begin here, I came upon a forest, and down here it's a series of images which are rather surreal, like this one.
Yes.
And decagon figures, and the toss over tuberose, and trees, and this...
Now, This was inspired by Zadkiin's sculpture, which is mentioned also in the diary.
It's not a dream experience,
No,
this.
it's really an inspiration from his sculpture. But what impressed me about it, and what seemed to me part of this kind of love, was that it was a natural tree sculptured into highly artificial forms.
Uh-huh.
And I really did have, when I was in the studio, the feeling that these trees were wailing,
Yes.
had been distorted. And the image came up in relation to the brother and sister relationship, that it was not a natural state.
Uh-huh. And also full of pain.
And, full of pain.
Yeah,
and
the
that
wailing.
they had, yes.
Yeah.
And so the nature was unsatisfied and had been carved out of the forest, and the way Zadkiin had done with his trees.
Now, this forest of plaster with the eggs, I wondered about this because this is an image of fertility, isn't
yes,
it?
and this is the other sculptor that I admired so much. This is a description of, his name escapes me, the one who did all the eggs and the, bird without wings.
Oh, I was wondering if, because Magritte did many paintings with eggs.
I describe him in the diary. He was quite old, and I went to visit him. Oh. Do you remember at the end of the diary? It'll come back
in Paris
to me.
or in New York?
Yes. But then, this is, as you say, an image of fertility, but it's what is denied by this relationship.
Is it intended to contrast with this?
Yes. You see, it's an abstract fertility. It's a white plaster, and it's
it's
eggs.
I see. Yeah, they are, in other words...
transposed.
Uh-huh.
Or transposed. All the things that should be of nature are
made
fixed
artificial.
into an art form, into an artificial form.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Brancusi.
Yes. Brancusi.
So I took two sculptors to show this frozen state.
I see.
The frozen state of things that should be
actually lack
natural.
of fertility here, because rendered in the symbols of... I see. Yes. Now this is a realistic, this resumes a realistic level, isn't it, here? This is just...
No, there's still a symbolic act. It's a symbolic act.
She has lost her brother.
Yes. It's symbolic. No, nothing in here is entirely realistic.
But I mean, this is physical action on the level of realism, isn't it?
Well, it's surrealistic action.
These are her actions in the House of Incest. I mean, they're real actions, aren't they?
No, because the whole thing takes place in the unconscious, No, it isn't really ever on a realistic level.
None of it.
No. This is more like a dream. I don't know exactly how to describe that, but it's not meant to be something that really happened.
Well, because I understood that it could have symbolic meaning, but I thought that it also could have happened actually, you see, so that, I mean, to give it...
No. No, I imagine that this would come more in the description of a fantasy.
Could we say it was an imaginary drama whose purpose is to, say, dramatize the torture dramatize the pain of the experience here? But you see, what puzzled me was here she says she loses the brother. Now, on the symbolic level, what would that mean?
Well, I had probably the feeling that a relationship like that was so tenuous, I was thinking of Cocteau's Enfants Terribles. The relationship is so tenuous and cannot be sustained in ordinary life. So it has a sort of disappearing.
Losing and finding again.
It has its tenuous visibility.
Yes, I see,
And so in this drama, which is really a symbolic drama, she realizes that it's a static thing. It's static and can't fulfill itself.
Now, this, I love no one, not even my brother, I love nothing but this absence of pain.
Another state that follows, you remember before I had the breakdown of the relationship with Sabina brings on this sort of very feverish, fever-like hallucinations. Here, it brings about a state of not feeling.
Nervelessness.
Yes, her reaction is to feel so much for something that cannot take body, cannot take a form, and becomes like these sculptures of the forest. And
well, this is then is a defense against
feeling.
Defense, this nervelessness is her defense, is a weapon against the
Well, it's the
pain.
death in life. It's an emotional
Yes,
death.
but it is preferable. She prefers it here to the pain that accompanies the experience.
It's a different reaction to disillusion. The other was an active pain and suffering. This is a turning away from the feeling. It's a freezing.
Yes.
So I use images of freezing, the standing still.
Yes.
It's frozen. It's a frozen relationship that cannot grow.
And what is the significance of her finding him? And then the death here, this is symbolic, that is death, the death in life,
Yes,
you mean?
Yes, death in life when a love cannot thrive.
Yes. And
And she finds it, well, you remember he was loving, he's not even able to love looking at her, he looks at her on the painting. He falls asleep among the paintings and expresses his love by falling in love with the painting of her. This is the tabooed relationship.
Yes, I see.
And so he's worshipping her portrait.
Yes,
It
which
becomes
will never grow old, which has no physical
a little
identity.
of the Dorian Gray feeling, too.
Yes, quite a bit, yes.
Because they see themselves growing older. You see, she was very preoccupied with that. You remember,
Yes.
she's watching her brothers growing older, and yet they are still in the same relationship they were as children. And they are losing each other by time, and the brothers get married.
Yes. Was that relationship physical or
No,
it was
no,
not.
it's the same one I described. No, it's the same one I described.
But I couldn't tell,
in
just in the diary.
No.
But I couldn't tell whether you were just being discreet
No.
there, or whether it was an actual.
No, I think a great many of those relationships are subconscious and not
Yes, of
lived
course.
out, and they are tabooed, and they freeze.
Yeah.
And in this case, I give various descriptions of it. Under a Glass Spell has really another form of that description. It's really a completion of this
Yes.
on a more human
Was this
level.
written first?
Well,
Under a Glass Spell. Do you remember?
Yes, I think this was written first, although Under Glass Spell was already in the diary
Yes, that's right.
at the time.
Yeah.
I think the poem and the stories were almost
About the
simultaneous,
same
but the
time,
story
yes.
remained buried in the diary, and I didn't
Yeah.
write it till later. The poem then I did.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the final segment of the interview.